Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Let's go over the questions that were asked on the shareholder meeting. Elon's asked how Tesla intends on utilizing cash over the coming years. Elon says they're not really interested in acquisitions, perhaps a few if it can improve manufacturing or AI, but it's not like they're about to acquire Ford, either, or Panasonic or something major. They just want to grow internally, organically mainly, and perhaps acquire companies that facilitate that, rather than looking at vertical or horizontal integration. He says 90% of their growth has been organic, but it will be rare for Tesla to acquire a company. Obviously, Tesla will increase their CAPEX for their growth. Remember, we did the numbers on the insane return on capital invested in Giga Texas. After a couple of years, it could be profiting Tesla about 10 to 20 times what it cost to build initially, or enough profit to build 10 to 20 Giga Texases a year. When you get those sorts of crazy returns, then it requires very little CAPEX relative to growth. Just a couple of billion for a massive factory. Even if Tesla built 2 a year, they would struggle to spend much more than $5 billion a year. Then on top of that, Elon says they spend a reasonable amount in R&D, but that doesn't even come under CAPEX anyway. Elon even says that if they spend their CAPEX any faster, then it would end up being wasted money. Sometimes you cannot simply throw money at a problem to make it happen faster or better. This might be what legacy autos will discover with the hundreds of billions they are spending. It won't be long though until Tesla's profits are just going to tower over any potential investments. There is too much cash to spend on expanding the company. Now, although Elon doesn't mention this, I think it's obvious as to the only places Tesla can spend the kind of money they're making by not selling their products and generating income from them instead. Tesla's own robotaxi network, solar farms, energy storage, or robot army. The factories cost a relatively minuscule amount in the scheme of things. I mean, a lot of us think the stock price will be around $3,000 to $5,000 perhaps by 2025. A market valuation of perhaps $5 trillion. To put it into perspective, Giga Texas would have cost 0.04% of that market valuation. Do you see? The CAPEX is nothing compared to the value. Tesla is not restrained by cash, and Elon even said this back in the 2020 shareholder meeting. Tesla's CAPEX just gets such insane returns. They create more cash so quickly, it will become physically impossible to spend it feasibly. Elon does say, depending on what the future cash flow looks like, a share buyback probably is possible, which I'm happy with. It means we own more Tesla. Despite our share count remaining the same, each share is a larger share of the company. I mean, we all want to own more Tesla shares. Most of us here, I gather, are already about as all in as they can be with their Tesla investment. However, if Tesla accumulates a large fund of cash, then equally, Tesla can buy Tesla shares for us. That's our cash too, you see. And if there simply aren't enough ways to spend it, then wouldn't more Tesla shares be a great investment for the company? The next question is, how many factories are required to hit 20 million a year run rate? Elon says roughly a dozen factories. Now, this is factories. Later on, that is cleared up as factories and not locations. However, I think that in the scenario, we are consolidating the current 2 China factories as just one, but possibly the next Shanghai factory as an extra. As in, after the new Shanghai factory is complete, we might have 5 of said dozen required. Then, of course, we have a new factory location to be announced later this year, which would place us at 6. 6 factories out of the dozen. That's halfway there. But remember, the next 6 factories will be more efficient and likely have a higher output, at least when ramped up. It's possible that the first 6 factories may be responsible for perhaps only 1/3 of the total output, and then the next 6 might be producing 2/3. Just look at how Fremont compares with Texas. Well, what if in a few more factory iterations we start seeing them compare with Texas in an equivalent way? I just can't believe the progress they're capable of, to be honest. As far as how much my stocks will be worth, it's mind-blowing. I will likely have the opportunity to do some real good with this, whilst also having a high enough living standard where I can drive the quickest car in the world. Shanghai has just been that impressive. I can't believe these line upgrades, and judging by the stock price, neither can the market. I do all these projections and figures. They aren't for hope or Hail Marys. They're based on my realistic assumptions, but I'm sure my estimates from a year ago or so would not have guessed that Tesla China could be at run rates of perhaps 4,000 vehicles a day alone. My forecasts are based off previous trends and what Tesla and Elon tell us, but they didn't tell us Shanghai would be capable of this. So anyway, a part of me does think that although I do all these forecasts based on the most realistic path I can find, and I know for a lot of people realistic also means winding it back a bit in case of uncertainty, well, a part of me does always think it could be higher, and we are potentially being sandbagged. We have many geniuses at work here. I mean, can you begin to imagine how smart the smartest people at Tesla must be? We don't know what kind of miraculous breakthroughs we may see along the way. Anyway, a dozen factories to achieve the 20 million target, possibly somewhere in the region of about $25 billion more in CAPEX for those factories alone. Bear in mind, Elon has also said that they have about $10 billion more to spend on expanding Giga Texas alone as well. But it's possible that might not all be for autos. Remember, we have an energy and robots business too, so there may be some massive energy-related manufacturing fabs to go in there as well. Elon says Tesla are aiming for between 1.5 and 2 million units per factory, which is pretty much exactly in line with our estimates. We would think that the Austin Model Y line can hit 1 million a year, perhaps sometime in 2024, judging by the Model Y Shanghai factory ramping. Then the Cybertruck, we would think at least 500,000 there, meaning Austin can reach 1.5 million in 2024. Obviously, the Cybertruck is totally new rethinking of car design and manufacturing. All the other cars to date have been designed pre-Giga castings. They were not designed around the fact that these molds were possible. The Cybertruck was designed from the ground up with a lot more manufacturing knowledge and experience than Tesla had when they were designing the 3 or Y. So much more, it's incomprehensible. The 3 and Y were designed around being electric first, and all the capabilities that electric offered. Now Tesla have very much taken the role of a manufacturing company and understand how important it is. For example, if you can design a car that can be manufactured twice as fast and maybe 30% lower cost, when demand for electric cars is so high that customers are beating a path to your door, then think how valuable that is. And that is the Cybertruck, partly hence the shape of it, with its straight lines. It's so much easier to manufacture. Then you include all the gig castings too, and no paint shop required. I do somewhat wonder just how fast Tesla might be able to make the Cybertruck, and for what cost. Of course, it is obviously still a very big machine, but production speed is relative to the number of processors required on the production floor, and not necessarily so much the actual size of the vehicle. And guess what? We're nearly going back 3 years ago now since the initial Cybertruck reveal, not to mention however many years Tesla were working on this car prior to that. It has had a long time to be refined, and so much thought must have gone into it by this stage. And still, it won't be in production until next year. It will be phenomenal. Someone was even telling me that they saw it at the shareholder meeting, and it looks about 10 times more amazing in person. Other people have said it looks like CGI in real life. What's going to happen when we see these things driving everywhere? Elon has even asked about the Cybertruck and the pricing, and considering it was almost 3 years ago, well, no surprise, the price will be different from initially advertised. The specs will be different too, as we would have hoped, as there have been so many improvements since 2019. Anyway, he says that in the next couple of months, they're going to start installing the production line of the Cybertruck. Remember, the Cybertruck does not have a 2170 backup plan. Tesla have to get their 4680 cells to a high level of production by then. Elon says they are installing all the production equipment and tooling for installation and aiming to be in volume production by the middle of next year. Elon just said volume production by mid next year. We had previously been told that the Cybertruck would just start production mid next year. So I would only take this statement with a grain of salt. He might have just meant production in general, not volume production, although it would be amazing if it was actually in volume production. Okay, we'll keep dissecting the rest of these questions, then we really need to get on with some overdue financial forecasts. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.